The growth outlook in India is bright. It's one of the first countries to recover from the global economic crisis, and we expect that India's growth will reach 8% in the next year, 2010-11, and rising from nearly 7% this past year. And what is beneficial for India's growth is that it has two engines of growth, which means it depends on external demand as well as domestic demand. And this recovery, we believe, is going to be driven by private investment and private consumption because corporate profits and employment prospects have recovered nicely. Inflation is accelerating in India, and there are essentially two types of reasons for this. One is structural. Food production has not kept pace with the increased demand that has been taking place over the last several years, and that has put upward pressure on prices. In addition, the cyclical recovery from the crisis is also intensifying demand pressures. The Reserve Bank of India, the central bank, is very vigilant to these concerns and has begun to withdraw liquidity and tighten monetary policy. Going forward, as the recovery becomes entrenched, we think demand pressures will continue to intensify, and so the RBI should continue on its path of gradual but timely monetary policy tightening. India's deficit and debt are amongst the highest in emerging markets, and this is a problem because it leaves very few resources for India to spend on social and economic development. The authorities are very cognizant of the need to reduce deficits, in fact have pledged to do so over the next couple of years. And they have some revenue measures they have to implement, which will certainly help in reducing the fiscal deficit. But equally important is for them to do reforms of the expenditure side. And there we are specifically concerned with subsidies. Right now, subsidies go largely towards benefiting the well-off. We believe that a proper subsidy regime could be put in place that targets the poor more directly. India has a growing proportion of young workers entering the labor force, and when countries go through this kind of transition, typically is when they have the highest growth potential, and the same is true for India. But for India to realize its growth potential, it needs very important reforms of the infrastructure, where it needs to build roads, electricity supply, water supplies, etc. It needs reforms to enhance labor productivity, and reforms also to ensure that savings are utilized in the most efficient way possible.